gentlemen, Broadway producers. I don't say welcome to Broadway. You are very experienced with Broadway, but producers producing The Lost Boys. Where are the emotions right now?
What are the emotions?
Just a big laugh.
I mean, no, you know why? Because we are so in the thick of it. We move into the theater right now, so we're dealing with not only getting the show right and making sure the show's in working order, which of course it is, but there's, you never have enough time, never have enough money, right? That's just like rule of thumb. So between getting into the theater, then we're dealing with front of house, and so our minds are like, we are just racing. So it's very hard to sit back and go, this is how we feel, because we're really like, okay, at 2 o'clock we got a meeting, that's kind of our days.
Yeah, this is the biggest show of the spring. I'm so excited for the Lost Boys musical. And, and I think about the germ of this. When I first heard you guys were doing this, I was so excited from jump. And now it's coming in as just this event, so congratulations. But I was thinking about it. You've all had, spring Broadway moments as actors where you were starring in new shows and hoping that they would, become the next big thing, and sometimes they didn't.
More often than not, they didn't. We're hoping to break the trend.
Thanks for the reminder. More often than not.
So, what is it like? What's different about it now? I mean, there's a different. Some pressures are removed, and a lot of additional pressures are added, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying all throughout this that even in the casting process, from the development process, that when you're acting in a show, you're of course praying and hoping for the success of the piece, and you're serving the piece in every way you can, but realistically you're very much thinking about yourself.
Sure.
And from it's true.
Well, that's just you're thinking about yourself.
What are you thinking about?
We're thinking about you.
Very good. And everybody else is obviously thinking about me. No, but in this one, when you're observing from the outside, and like Patrick said, you're running from a marketing meeting to a publicity meeting to look at costumes, to determine whether there should be punctuation on a poster or no punctuation on a poster. You're seeing everything, and so to answer the first question as well, it's a mix of being super busy, super anxious, and super anticipatory and excited about what's coming.
How about you, Marcus?
I think the biggest thing for us is, we've said this a few times, is that we didn't understand. We knew how many decisions we'd be making, and we knew how important those decisions we'd be making, but we didn't know they'd be coming in such rapid fire. Like, you can't prepare yourself for, like, as this countdown is getting closer and closer to opening night, the number of things coming at us. It's just, you can't anticipate that until you're actually in the fire, and we are in it right now. But it's awesome. Like, and the fact that it's 3 of us, like if you saw our text chains, it's insane. And the number of kind of decisions, because the 3 of us always want to kind of make sure there's at least a majority, but typically the 3 of us are in agreement on most things. And so we just have to make sure we have the time to go through and make thoughtful decisions so we can do what's best for the show.
And remind each other when we're not making them in the proper time frame. We're always writing each other saying, respond to this, do this, call this person.
Right. Yeah. You can be very professional as big Broadway producers, but then you can also, amongst yourselves, just have your own little chain of making sure things are getting done.
Yeah, right? We don't have a big office. Like, it's the 3 of us. I think a lot of producers have teams that help them out. For us, it's us doing everything day to day.
Yeah, cool.
And we've surrounded ourselves with amazing people, like our general management team, our press team, our marketing team. We decided when we came in to do this that we were never going to pretend to know more than we really know. And so we were going to surround ourselves with the best of the best. And I feel like we have really, if nothing else, we've really succeeded at that.
Very true.
So where did this come from? Just tell me tell me from jump where this started.
It's my fault. No. So like 25 years ago, I was in an ill-fated musical called Urban Cowboy that you may remember,
you were
Paul.
fantastic in Urban Cowboy.
And by the way, one of the...
Was he?
He was.
Wait a minute.
Did you see Urban Cowboy?
Of course we saw it. I saw it at Coconut Grove and on Broadway, my friend.
Okay.
That's true, he did. He did.
Look, I saw all your best shows and all your not so best shows. I've seen everything.
I think we were doing Urban Cowboy, which, by the way, was a fantastic experience, and I'm still friends. Matt Cavanaugh, Jen Colella, that's where we all met. Yeah. Michelle Cottrell,
Jason.
Who's now a big manager. Like, we had to negotiate Shoshana Bean's contract together. Like, it's crazy. Wow. We're getting older. But during that time, I remember thinking, it's a shame this show isn't working, but the idea of doing a musical based on existing IP was interesting. And at that time, everybody wasn't doing it. Like, that wasn't the thing.
Yeah.
And I just thought, why isn't this one working? What is a movie that could work? And this movie, to us, kind of defined cool for our generation. Like, as we were coming up in the 70s and 80s, this showed that, like, vampires don't have to have British accents and flouncy shirts. Like, they can be sexy kids on the beach in leather. And the biggest thing that we always talk about is we could see where this movie sang. Like, it made sense that it was living in such a heightened reality that it would make sense that people would break it into song, which is obviously the hardest thing when you're making a musical, to justify that. So long story short, 25 years ago, I tried to get the rights to do this. Warner Brothers quickly said no. Worked on it for a little while and then finally let it go. And then about 5-6 years ago, the movie was on TV a ton during COVID. And I called these guys and I said, you remember we had this idea? And Patrick, fortunately, had developed a really great relationship with Warner Brothers over the years.
Yeah.
And so I knew we could get a meeting. And we went in and got a meeting and we pitched our take on how we would bring this thing to the stage. And we found out, we didn't know this at the time, that this was one of the most requested titles in the Warner Brothers library. And they were super protective of it. And fortunately, they responded to our pitch and we were off to the races.
I mean, I immediately thought that you worked with Joel Schumacher in Phantom of the Opera film, which is iconic. Raoul, this is a Raoul sitting here. I mean, Jesus, fantastic.
Was he?
Huh?
Sorry.
Well, he was.
Touche. He had a great wig.
Yeah.
I know he passed, 6 years ago. Was there ever a conversation with he directed
Not
the Lost
about
Boys
this, but we were very close. His assistant is a dear friend of mine, writing partner friend of mine, Aaron Cooley. So I've always, anybody that's in Joel's universe, even for one movie, which ends up being 8-9 months of your life, then you promote it and everything else. So it's about a year of your life. It feels pretty special. So I knew, because when Marcus had presented the idea, it was like, well, let's really look at this objectively. Not, oh my God, I love this film. Like, but not everything holds up, as most things with our youth, So and it was a real big side of me that I wanted Joel to be happy. I really did, because I feel like he would have loved it, and I still think he would love it. I think he would love what Michael Arden's doing with the show, and what our writers have done. I think he would love the score. He's very, come on, between Cinema's Fire and tons of Joel Schumacher movies, he had a very musical feel. Yes. And so while the music in the movie is great in the movie, obviously you can't use the same, to me, for our taste, those things don't work. Obviously, we really love the form of musical theater, so you need story to move song and all this. So Joel's relationship was important. I mean, over the years, I've worked with Jason Patrick, Diane Weiss. We did All My Sons together. Even Jameson Newlander, who plays Edgar Frog. Edgar Frog. We did a movie Bone Tomahawk together. I mean, I've known Kiefer, so I've got. I can kind of go through most of the cast, and that's important to me. My relationship with Joel, my relationship to the material, my relationship with Warner Brothers. So that's something that's always on the forefront of our mind, knowing this is a new thing, knowing we've got to breathe life into it. There's something different when the character's right in front of you, and using song as a way to get inside the character is something that you can't do in a movie. And I always like to look at those as a creative guy, I always like to look at those decisions of when the really moments can really sing, and when they probably are stronger and better, dare I say, than the movie, or when there's give and take. And I love making movies, but there's something about this form, this material, that really lends itself to the stage. And I think that's the most important thing for us, is when people come in, maybe they're expecting something, maybe they're not. They can come in open-minded, but it's so hard these days. But the amount of heart that our show has because of what musicals can do to us, because of what songs can do. And so you've got this inherent passion that's won both in horror movies, right? We live at like a heightened level, just like musical theater. And once you get on board with that, it's so freeing. The highs are high, the lows are low, and we always talk about stakes, pun intended. It's a vampire joke. But once you really, so there's so much to really chew on, and that's been the most beautiful thing, is to watch people and watch these moments, these highs and lows of emotion. So it's something, to back to your original point, I think Joel would be so thrilled, because he was a guy that lived like that. When you go through his remarkable resume, gets beat up a lot for Batman and Robin, but that man had such a diverse resume, and this was one of his. I mean, the chance that he took with taking this material from the late Dick Donner to Marcus's point, to make these vampires, like, they don't need to be hundreds and hundreds. We don't need to see that they talk with a funny accent and those movies are cool and those shows are cool. And obviously we can get into this or not, but the vampire musicals of that. But what Joel did, and really making it about youth, about life, about brotherhood, about your tribe, it just screamed musical theater and what all of us have as creatives are the reason we got into the business, which was to find somebody that was like us.
I'm going to say something, and hopefully you won't all jump on me like the Lost Boys, but I actually don't think that the film is like the perfect timeless film, and I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think sometimes it obviously works on so many levels, and it was such an event at the time. I was a kid when it came out, and the casting and Joel's work, there's so much beautiful stuff there. But when you take a perfect film and try to adapt it, it's kind of not the best thing to do. It's better to take something that just great elements, but
it also subverts the expectation of the audience, right? I'll just speak to my own experience with Saturday Night Fever. There is
He was great in that, by the way, guys. You want to argue with that one or two?
I think
I'm not even. I can't even defend myself in that one, Paul.
You didn't have to defend yourself. It was obvious.
He was
obvious
great.
how great you were.
He was awesome.
Yeah, no.
He was awesome.
But
he was in dance class like 6 months before we even. But sorry, Equity. He was in dance classes for 6 days.
Can't do that anymore.
6 days.
No, but when the expectation, I'll use Back to the Future recently and Saturday Night Fever, Footloose, whatever the ones that started this sort of movie to stage trend. When there's a giant expectation to see what you remember from the film because the film is so massive, if you don't deliver that, audiences feel like they've been robbed. But when the film is less sort of in the zeitgeist of something that everybody remembers, then you have the opportunity to serve the people who love the film, but also bring it to a whole new audience, to people who've never seen it or don't know anything about it. And also, to the point before, the problem with a lot of these earlier musicals is that these songs that are soundtrack to a film are not necessarily narrative that forwards the plot, and that's where you run into trouble. And so that's why, while there are a bunch of great songs in the movie,
we couldn't have just
we couldn't have just put them on stage.
No, 80s soundtracks were a whole different beast. It really was more about the vibe of the energy. And you, by the way, you have an incredible score by this band I never heard of. Apparently Mike Arden's been obsessed with them forever.
I know.
Who knew? The Rescues. So great. This score, I'm so excited. You must be excited to be bringing them to Broadway as well. And I'm sure a lot of people have raised eyebrows like, well, who's this band writing the Broadway score? But I can't wait for them to hear it.
When he first called us and he was like, I've got the perfect guys. And we were talking about these like very famous artists that we wanted to come in and write the show. He's like, I want you guys to listen to this band called The Rescues. And we were like, oh,
the Rescues. It sounds like
it sounds like somebody you should know, right? We did not know them at all. We immediately dove into their catalog and we all called each other and we're like, this might be the sound we've been looking for, and we didn't even know it.
Right.
And I don't know if you've heard the story, but they were doing a one-night concert in Los Angeles. Patrick couldn't come, but James and I went down and saw it with our wives. And literally halfway through the second song, we turned to each other and we're like, no one else is writing our show. This is it. And we approached them backstage. Like a friend of ours was the bouncer at the club, and he's like, I'll introduce you. And we said, what do you guys think about writing a Broadway musical? And Gabriel and the band stepped forward, and he's like, I don't know what my partners are going to say, but the answer is yes. What's the show? And we said, do you remember the movie The Lost Boys? And he said, it's one of my favorite films. And that weekend, they went home and started writing songs on spec and delivered the first 3 songs to us a few weeks later, like as an audition to get the job. 2 of those songs are still in our show. And they had no direction. We didn't give them any write this song or that song. They just dove in and they said, this is kind of our inspiration. This is what we feel the show should sound like. And 2 of those songs are still in it. And the other one was a very good song. It just didn't make it in the show. It's been a remarkable experience working with the 3 of them.
Let me get this off the table because it's obviously going to keep coming up. There have been vampires singing on Broadway previously. So, let's just sort of, give a little a moment to Dracula. He sang, and let's see, we had Lestat sang, and Count von Krolock. Did you guys see that one?
What is Count von Krolock? Dans de Vampires.
I mean, I saw it like 5 times. None of you were in it, but any of you could have. It could have fit into any of your careers.
Max von Essen was playing
or another. But this actually, when I was lucky enough to see a reading of this musical, and I sat there and I was like, well, wait, is it about vampires? Like, there are characters that are vampires, but it's actually about so many things, which is so beautiful. And like you said, they're cool vampires, they're modern vampires, so it takes off sort of like all that classical stuff. But it's it's amazing. Is it about vampires? What is this show about? It's about
No,
so much.
it's about
Family,
brotherhood.
yeah.
It's about family.
The human condition. It's about finding your people. And vampires happen to be an obstacle for all of our characters as they try to figure out who they're meant to be with and who they're meant to surround themselves with.
We're always faced with, are we doing enough with our time here on Earth? Right? Like we always, what do I do for a living? You know, it's like, and you go through phases of that, certainly as you get older. And so it's a little, when you have that element that's taken off the table by, well, you could live forever. And then you go, whoa, hold on, do I want to do that? And I know that's been explored before, but it's very hard when it's removed. And I'm not going to knock on those other musicals, but we knew from the get-go that this wasn't, and it was one of the things I remember for me specifically when I was like, well, hold on, I love the movie, hold on, let's go back and look. And then you start actually reading too about it, and when it made these lists of all these different, whether it was horror comedy, whether it was queer cinema, whether it was just straight up 80s action, like it made so many lists. Because at the time, you've got a single mom taking her 2 boys looking for a fresh start. You're like, well, that has nothing to do with vampires. Vampires, like James said, were the obstacle. So I think that always helped us as we never, and I think that actually helped us too, I know, with Warner Brothers, because we didn't really, when we made the pitch, and this was before we knew who was going to direct it or anything, we knew it was never about that. And luckily, I think Michael Arden had never seen the film, so he only looked at it with fresh eyes, and it was like, you know, and I think it's hard because when you're of our age and you have seen those shows, or maybe we were in them, you know, you have this reservation, but honestly, outside of art, no one really cares, at least in my mind. I don't know if they have that stigma. Certainly the younger crowd doesn't.
Right. I mean, with the younger people, there's been a vampire explosion, starting with, you know, Buffy, Twilight, now Sinners.
Yeah, they look at it so much differently than we.
By the way, this is going to be such a hit that the rights to all of those is going to be scooped. There's going to be like so many vampire musicals now. You're going to bring back this whole vampire musical thing.
Well, it's so funny when people, because we laugh now when people say, you know, are you guys nervous because vampire musicals don't work? And we're like, well, A, we're not doing a vampire musical. We're doing a musical that happens to have vampires in it. And B, I think that's like saying, you know, I've made this joke before that like somebody could have said back in the day, well, a musical about a bunch of French guys revolting and a guy who stole a loaf of bread and they spin around on a turntable for 3 hours isn't going to work until it's done really well. Like our job has always we always say we have to just make this undeniable, make it undeniably good in every department, strive for excellence. And then who cares if it's about vampires or French revolutionaries or a disfigured guy who lives in the basement of an opera house? Like, you just have to do it right.
I know that show.
You do. You had a great wig. Remember, he had a great wig on. Yeah.
But also, I know you have Dane Laffrey, an incredible designer who always works with Michael Arden. They've created so many magical landscapes on Broadway together. It has to be, there's scary moments as well. And I know you're the sweetest guy, but you're known to most people for being in the scariest effing movies. So you know scary. It's hard to see you just smiling and, you know, Patrick, the whole other side of you. But yeah, we were delivering that as well.
Oh, yeah.
There's some flying I hear, and what are we in for at the Palace?
Well, I'll just jump in and say nobody knows the genre as well as Patrick, so having him around throughout the process to really sort of be the eyes. I mean, you joke that you're the tension police because tension is what makes horror work.
Yeah.
And so he's always been, you know, there to say, hey, this is what, and to your point earlier about musicals, the scope of horror and the scope of what it takes to step out on the front of a stage and sing to 1,700 people is a very similar energy.
Sure.
And it takes a certain amount of commitment, you know, and I think having him involved has really been a sort of like a lighthouse for us in what works and what doesn't in that genre. But to your point.
Well, and not to worry people, like there are scary moments for sure, but it's not like a horror musical by any stretch of the imagination. I think the secret sauce of our show and what our writers have done beautifully is that when it's funny, it's really funny. When it's scary, it's really scary. And what people aren't going to expect is that when it's touching, it is genuinely touching. There is a real human story that they've woven through this thing about love and family. And I think that is not what people are going to expect when they walk into the Palace. And if we've done our job right, and our team has done our job right, people are going to leave having had a really emotional experience while having a great time, obviously. We're not trying to, we don't want to take ourselves too seriously, but it's all in there.
But I think there's some surprise. for the audience? You know, you said what should people expect? I think there will be it will surprise people what we've created.
Yeah.
But
It's fun to hear people talk about what they think it is, because no one's ever seen it. Like,
Right.
we've never seen it.
We've never seen it.
But
We didn't go out of town.
People, will hear, oh, I heard it's going to be this, or I heard it's going to be that. And we're like, what's fun is people have no idea.
You all came in the late 90s to Broadway. Where did this friendship actually develop?
Oh,
Carnegie Mellon.
College.
Carnegie Mellon. I always hear about those relationships at Carnegie Mellon.
Yeah.
So you were in literally the earliest days together.
We
Tell the
were.
story.
Yes, you can tell your experience, but so I'm 2 years ahead.
Okay.
And they're in the same class, but Marcus and I are the same age. And so when we had these things called sleeping bag weekends, where, as a college senior can come hang out with, I guess, I would have been a freshman there, or we were sophomores?
you were sophomores, yeah.
Sophomores, that's right. So sophomores. So because we're the same age, and Marcus had already done 2 years of college, well, you could tell
When I showed up for my sleeping bag weekend, I went to the dean's office and they were like, oh, I have somebody you should hang out with. I think you guys will get along. And that was Patrick. They introduced the two of us.
Yeah.
And so he showed
And
me
Matt
around for the
Stokey,
weekend. Matt
Christian
Stokey,
Borle.
Christian Borle, Mike
they were
Holland,
all my class.
Mike
Yeah.
McCachran, God bless his soul. And I spent the weekend with these guys. And I was like, well, this is fun. And at the end of the weekend, Patrick goes, well, you're going to come to school here, right? And I was like, I guess I should. And that was kind of how I made my college decision. And then
Yeah, she didn't put you with the freshmen. That's interesting.
well, that was my decision. When
you
I was
wanted
coming
someone
to
that was
visit the
your
school,
age.
I thought, let's see people like my age. What are they doing? Because
Yeah.
I was still going to have to start over in school as a freshman because they didn't let you transfer credits.
Yeah.
I had gone to school to play volleyball and was a psychology major. But when I transferred, I had to start over. So they put me with these guys.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I made the decision to go to school. And then the first day of school, when we were freshmen,
Don't.
he loves this story.
Don't.
We're all sitting in the
No, it's fine.
We're all sitting in this huge theater, and it's like the big speech where they scare the freshmen, and they're like, look to your left, look to your right. One of these guys won't be here in 4 years when you graduate.
right.
And you're like, oh God.
Yeah.
And about 5 minutes late into the meeting, the back doors of the theater open, and in comes this like buffed, tan guy wearing a tank top,
Stop it.
cut off jean shorts, and work boots.
Shorts.
And I was like, who is this guy? I'm going to hate this dude. And by the way,
Like straight out of Blue Oyster Cult or
Yes.
something.
and he ended up becoming one of my best friends. So that's kind of the origin story of how the three of us ended up doing. And then after once we graduated and we all started working as actors, we all had this different itches to produce.
Yeah.
And we worked on some films that we developed together, and then it was really this.
Yeah, we always wanted to find the right thing. It's not like we just were like, hey, we're friends. It's like we've always had this, because Marcus lives in the Bay Area, James is in LA predominantly, I'm here. So we knew, like, whatever we found, if there was a show that we ever found together, it had to be something we were all in, because it's going to take a lot, not only just to do the show, but it's going to take a lot of energy from us because we're all in different places. And this was the one. This became the one.
What have you learned about actually doing it now that you're in the thick of it? When you're in the process, and I've heard many of your actors on The Lost Boys already compliment the room and the environment. And I think Michael also, of course, former actor, fantastic actor and singer.
Yeah.
So you're all you understand actors, and I think you understand sort of what actors need to build a show. But what has it been like being on the other side, and what have you actually learned that maybe surprised you?
I mean, one thing we've said from the beginning is that, or at least I know I've felt very strongly about, especially in the development process, you have actors who come in and make very little money to sort of help you build your piece of art, right? And it always struck me that they were sort of the last people when I was on the other side of the table that were sort of attended to. And so I wanted to do it, we wanted to do it in the way that we wish it had been done, or treat people and have respect for people and lift people up who, that might not have happened when we were involved. And so that's the first. The second is, I think there's this misconception out there about producers being these deep pocket, sort of just money people. And it really does take every bit of like your like you said, the time, your soul, your attention, to not only just, of course, raise money, because we all know it's super expensive to do this and it's super high risk, but just every little piece. And it's not just these sort of people behind a desk. And I think we've strived to sort of like share our experience from being on the other side as producers who are now in this position. And so I don't even know if I might have thought that when I was on the other side too, that producers are just producers.
Yeah, that's probably the thing, is like you have this built-in, and I've done it like anytime you're in a room, like, oh, the producers are here, like. it's this stigma that the amount. I mean, I've been an actor for 30 years. I've been a producer for like 5 minutes, but now I'm the producer. Like everything that we're creative people, and we don't. The reality is, we've never been behind the curtain on other shows to know how other producers do it, right? Like, because it can be so removed because we're running around doing a million things. But we only know how involved we are. And especially, I think that one of the biggest surprises to me is, you do these readings year after year. Sometimes I've done readings of shows for like 8 years. And you're like, why does it seem like one line has been changed in 6 months? Yeah. And that's the stuff. And I don't mean that, well, it is what it is. Some shows take forever. I mean, I did Harmony 30 years ago, right? And you see the journeys of shows take, and I do think it was a real surprise when you're like, if you don't have the people at the helm driving the show creatively in those phases, in those first initial few years, you just kind of get real sidetracked. And because sometimes, I mean, we've been in shows where directors come in and out, or the director's doing other shows. So then it's like, who's guiding the ship? And that was something we really, luckily we had a team that was really in it to win it. The Rescues were in it to win it. David Hornsby and Chris Hoke were in it to win it, to our writers. So everybody was focused, honestly, because several years ago, Michael said, okay, I've got this show, this show, this show. I think we can get it in either fall of 25 or spring of 26. And this was like 4 years ago. We're like, it's so far away, but okay, I get and we said, okay, then that's the goal. And that's what we do. And that's what we do. So it's been an everyday thing. Keeping the rails.
I think too, finding the balance between the business and the creative has been a big thing for us too.
That's true.
Because we all started as creatives more than anything else, and now you're running a multi-million-dollar business, but we still need to and want to be involved in the creative process. And knowing how far you push that, like Michael Arden is the creative leader of the show, not us. And so we've had to kind of sometimes we bite our tongue and be like, we bet Michael's got it. And of course, we were very fortunate to have a meeting with Jeffrey Seller. Took time to sit down with the three of us. Yeah. And we said, what would you, just to get advice, we wanted to go and just kind of talk to people who've done it at a really successful level. And he said, never overwhelm your director. When you go to him, maybe go to him with 3 things and assume that at least 2 of those things he's already probably thinking about. And I think that's been a great thing for us to be like, let's not say it today. Let's come tomorrow and see what happens. And 9 times out of 10, Michael's on the exact same page as us. And
what are you laughing at?
Yeah, no, exactly that. Because it's because I've been on the other side of it. I've been, whether it's like directing a movie where you just get thrown tons and tons and tons of notes from everybody, and it's like having the faith, and it's just understanding the process, understanding the process,
and trusting the process,
and trusting the process. Yeah, for sure.
Also, too, if there's anything that good that came out of the pandemic, all of our writing team primarily works in other mediums, television, film. And so everyone was shut down. And then we had the writer's strike afterwards. So a lot of times when people talk about it takes 7, 8, 10 years to do these, we had a very focused time where they were allowed to just write because we weren't leaving our homes. So that really, I think, accelerated our creative process and allowed us to have the time to focus and drive that sort of keep that train on the tracks,
And to Patrick's point, because Michael had given us that target of I got this window to do the show. Yeah. We all looked at each other and we said, okay, then that's when we're doing it, and nothing's going to stop us.
Yeah.
He's a busy man.
He's a busy man.
I'm glad you got him.
But you know what? He's amazing at compartmentalizing. There's never been a moment, I don't think, where it's as we were developing that we thought, oh, his focus is on this show or that show. When he's with us, he is with us 100. It's a skill I don't have. It's really remarkable to watch how he's able to tune everything else out. And when he's with us, he's on our show 150%. It's really impressive.
Absolutely true.
I'm genuinely fans of all 3 of you as actors. Do you have any favorite roles of each other that you really love, or just favorite things you've seen each other do?
I'll start off. Because he brought it up in '97. He took over for the lead in Cyrano, and I remember sitting there and not only I always talk to our cast about swing mentality and cover mentality because it's something my brain. I can never figure out how to do it. I don't get it. I have enough problems learning my own lines in my own track. So to watch someone just jump in, but with a day's notice?
12 hours.
12 hours notice. Wow. Stepped in. I was at the show you went on. and he went on for Christian, for Gabriel Macht with Frank Langella. On a Broadway stage the year after we graduated from school, and I was just like, I cannot believe what I'm watching my friend do.
So that's nice. Well, I will say that to flip that around, and we joked about it earlier. When he was cast in Saturday Night Fever, I remember him calling me, and he's like, "What am I going to do?" And I was like, "You're going to kick ass. Like, you're going to work hard, and you're going to do it." And like Patrick was joking, but he put himself through dance class for months to get ready. And whatever the highs or lows of a show, like to watch your friend, who I was in dance class with him at Carnegie Mellon, I knew what his skill set was, and to watch, which was certainly significantly more than mine, but to watch that grow over the months, and then to be on stage and to lead that company I was a very proud friend.
Patrick's stuff.
He hasn't done anything.
He doesn't work, so it's hard to sort of think about.
I mean, he did that
He
right.
don't give it.
Once, if I no.
He was.
Look, there's nothing like watching your friend achieve all the dreams that he set out to do in that field, and to watch his career do what it's done in whether it's a horror movie. I mean, to me, my favorite performance of his is probably Angels in America, which I think is what started this whole trajectory for him, because it was like, wait a minute, this is our buddy who we go out and we get drunk with and we sing show tunes, and now he's starring opposite, in a Mike Nichols film with Meryl Streep and Al Pacino, and then it was off to the races.
And didn't Mike Nichols see you in Full Monty, and that's how that process started? Is that correct?
Yeah. Full Monty. Yeah.
I thought it was so. It all comes back to the work which we loved on Broadway, But to see, I would have said
Full
the same
Monty
thing.
was one of the best.
I mean, unbelievable.
That other show up in that season took its Tonys away.
It did.
But I do always love this story, and I don't think I don't have told young actors this, but it's about how unpredictable this path can be in acting. That you hadn't even am I right? And you had never. I hate the word booked. I don't know when actors say booked, it makes me crazy. You had never done really a TV show or a movie or anything. And so you can see how the career could have gone, you could have had it north to 52nd or 53rd Street, meaning you could have been on Broadway and had a illustrious career because of your talent. It was that one moment that somebody saw something, you got that I mean, I'm not saying it wouldn't have happened, but that was such a pivotal moment to be working with Meryl Streep and Al Pacino. And then you did it.
Broadway actors, now I feel like Broadway actors have been given more of those opportunities more recently. But at that time, it was very rare.
Yeah, it was very rare. That was Mike Nichols. And it's funny because bringing back to Joel Schumacher, Joel saw me in Full Monty too, and he goes, "Wait, you're the middle-aged guy who played the lead guy?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I said, "That's the difference between you and Mike Nichols. He cast me in Angels in America. You had no idea who I was."
And you know what's funny about that? Well, or I guess the shame of that is a lot of people don't know what he does as a singer. Yeah. He sang at the Hollywood Bowl a few months back, and I was there, and the number of people who came up to him and they were like, "Wait, you can sing?" And I was like, "Oh, you people have no idea."
Yeah.
I think he's
one of the best voices of all time.
Yeah, he's a remarkable leading man, and so it's.
So give a shout out to these two. What are your
favorites? I was trying to. I mean, Cyrano was pretty special for me, for Marcus. I mean, also seeing him on the road actually in Titanic was pretty awesome. Yeah, I gotta say that was really fun. For James, Stupid Kids actually.
Oh, I saw Stupid Kids. That's where I first met you. Stupid Kids.
Yeah, because I didn't see a ton. And also in school, because you're in they were in the chorus of the shows so I didn't see a lot of their stuff. All their best stuff that they did in college, I was already gone. So I really didn't. I only knew them as friends. I didn't know them as actors. Right. I really didn't. I remember when Marcus, when he booked Saigon, and then, but when you did Stupid Kids, I remember thinking you have such a style and so funny. That was so really grounded and I knew you're a musical theater guy, but just anytime you're seeing somebody in a play and you're just it was really, it was great. I remember seeing it.
Is that the kid in the cutoffs? Burst through that.
That's the one.
Literally, I think it was the exact same thing he described from earlier. I think I was wearing the jeans cutoffs. I was probably
because he was a stupid kid.
Yeah, exactly. Built like this, literally lifting Keith Knobs up with my pinky.
You know what's crazy though? Is all the shows we're talking about.
Yeah.
those are almost 30 years old.
I know.
And we're sitting here with you now, who
Yeah.
we've been with you through all of this.
I
I think
know.
about Urban Cowboy, like you on the press line. And you'd be like, I hope I get to do the Paul Wontorek, interview. And like the fact that you've continued to do this, man,
I'm
kudos
so
to you.
thrilled to see this happen for you guys. Honestly, it's
Thanks,
so
buddy.
exciting. What is your? By the way, I want to say Paul Alexander Nolan has a really nice, juicy role in this show as well. Any chance any of you are going to pop in and do a weekend in that part?
I know.
You could do that part.
We did ask Patty once, and he said we can't afford him. That was
There you go.
Listen, I've always said, like, everybody in my family, friends, when they read it or see a workshop, have said, why didn't you do it? And first of all, I would never even think to step in. Paul is just one of the great. He's one of the greatest. But I always joke that it'd be fun, like in massive success, to maybe pop in for a few months, or like do it on the road.
Go for
If
it.
my partners would, I'd have to audition for them.
That would be
the
the best.
worst.
That would be the best.
We'll get back to you. So finally, you're about to open this show at the Palace Theater, one of the biggest, most iconic Broadway theaters. What is the biggest dream of the next couple months for the three of you? I mean, obviously, you want to have a huge hit and win
The
Tony
biggest
awards.
dream. Yeah, the biggest dream.
I think that I hope that people feel the way we do when we watch the show.
Yeah.
Because like I said, that moment of surprise when you watch the show and you're like, whoa, this is not what I expected.
Right.
And I mean, people are going to love the music. They're going to hear the Rescues tunes, and to introduce them to the community is going to be really exciting. But I think for people to have that feeling when we watch it of like, oh wow, this is actually a really heartfelt story. It's not some actiony vampire thing. I think if we can really move some people, I think that would be make this whole thing worthwhile. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that and just say, not to bring the room down, but we're obviously in a time where things are very complicated, and it's hard to sort of just move through your day. And I think this really does, you leave the theater feeling a sense of hope. When I watch it, oftentimes a little something will catch me and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna call my mom. Or like, I'm gonna call that friend tonight that I haven't talked to in a long time. And I think if we can accomplish that, if people can walk out with the desire to be better and the desire to also be grateful for everything we do have on a daily basis. I know that sounds heavy, but
That's great.
I really hope that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everything they said, I think, I've been in a lot of successes and failures, and I learned really early on what kind of success was. You can never, success is very personal, right? And so it has really nothing to do with money, because that's so much out of our control. So for me, the success will be if the show lands with those audiences, like just exactly what they said. If they just walk out just feeling entertained and feeling moved and whatever the emotions, and because there's a lot of emotions in there, but I that's really just, that will be successful, is you just want the show to land, and we're just trying to do everything we can to just give it the proper runway, to just let it land and go enjoy the night, because I just want to entertain people. And that's really, it's pretty simple. I just, yes, you want people to show up and the ticket sales to go up and all that kind of stuff, but I just want to get our show right, get the show good, make sure it works, make sure it moves, and the wheels don't come off, and that people leave different than they came in.
You guys definitely know Broadway. I mean, so I think we're in good hands. Do you think this is the thing? Are we going to see you producing more shows? Is this going to become a whole new aspect of your lives and your careers?
I think it took us 25 years to get this one, so we'll have to see.
Right, we'll have to see.
We're focused on this one right now.
Yeah. Awesome.